There's something almost mythical about Daredevil. He isn't Marvel's strongest hero or its most famous. He doesn't command armies or bend universes to his will. But decade after decade, through every creative shakeup and editorial storm, his stories remain consistently exceptional. When the rest of Marvel is chasing spectacle, Daredevil stays human. Bloody, broken, but unrelentingly sincere. And maybe that's why, in a world of gods and billionaires, the blind lawyer from Hell's Kitchen has quietly become Marvel's most dependable masterpiece. Before diving in, a quick shout out to OpenArt, the platform that lets you create cinematic AI visuals in seconds. If you've ever wanted to design your own comic panels or concept art for your projects, OpenArt gives you full control, from lighting to color grading to composition. Use my link in the description to start generating your own art for free and help support the channel in the process. When I say Daredevil might be Marvel's best written character, I don't mean he's the strongest or even the coolest. What fascinates me is that he's the character artists and writers can't stay away from. There's this perfect equilibrium surrounding him. He's known enough to always get an ongoing title, but not so overexposed that corporate hands strangle creative risk. That middle ground has given creators 2 uninterrupted decades of experimentation and reinvention, something you rarely see in today's IP-driven comic landscape. And that's where the magic lies. Creative freedom. Freedom is the oxygen that's kept Daredevil alive and evolving when so many others have gone stale. A legacy of excellence. From the late 70s onward, Daredevil became a creative playground. Frank Miller took a character most saw as a second-tier acrobat and turned him into a Catholic noir tragedy, a man wrestling with guilt, faith, and violence in equal measure. Ann Nocenti and John Romita Jr. followed by dragging him into the political arena, turning Hell's Kitchen into a mirror of the real world's corruption and inequality. And then came the modern Renaissance. Kevin Smith, David Mack, Brian Michael Bendis, Ed Brubaker, Mark Waid, Charles Soule, and finally Chip Zdarsky, each one building on what came before, never erasing it. Most comics reset when a new writer takes over, but with Daredevil, each creative team inherits the trauma, the history, and the moral scars left by the previous run. That's what gives the character weight. He isn't rebooted. He's scarred. From page to screen. That creative consistency even bled into live action. Netflix's Daredevil wasn't just another superhero show. It felt like a prestige drama disguised as one. Charlie Cox's performance captured everything the comics built: faith, pain, and stubborn hope. And Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin might be one of the most terrifyingly human villains ever put to screen. So when Born Again was announced, fans held their breath. And yes, after a messy production restart, the early episodes show promise. They may not reach the operatic heights of the Netflix series, but they understand why Daredevil works. It's not about saving the world. It's about saving your soul. A character built on contradiction. What makes Matt Murdock so endlessly fascinating is contradiction. He's a blind man who sees more than anyone else. A lawyer who breaks the law every night. A Catholic who dresses as the devil. His life is an ongoing sermon about hypocrisy and redemption, wrapped in spandex. And those contradictions give him a moral depth no amount of cosmic power could ever match. Even his costume, a simple red suit with horns, embodies restraint. It's minimal, iconic, and endlessly adaptable for visual storytelling. The supporting cast and world. Few heroes have a supporting cast as rich and interconnected as Daredevil's. From Foggy Nelson's loyalty to Karen Page's tragedy, from Elektra's chaos to the Punisher's moral counterpoint, every relationship tests Matt's beliefs. And then there's Kingpin, the perfect reflection of what Matt could become if he ever gave in to control instead of faith. In many ways, Hell's Kitchen itself is the true co-star, a microcosm of New York's sin and salvation, pulsing with jazz, neon, and guilt. The 2000s Renaissance. By the late 90s, Daredevil could have faded away like many of Marvel's mid-tier heroes. Instead, Kevin Smith and Joe Quesada revitalized him. David Mack expanded his mythology with Echo, and then Bendis and Brubaker elevated him into the realm of noir literature. Each writer peeled back a new layer: identity, justice, trauma, and the art teams matched that ambition with visuals dripping in shadow and symbolism. Then came Mark Waid's bright reinvention, a Matt who used optimism as armor, laughing through the pain instead of drowning in it. And Zdarsky's recent run brought everything full circle, turning Daredevil's guilt into philosophy. A man so desperate for accountability that he voluntarily serves time as his masked identity. That's the kind of bold storytelling you only get when a publisher trusts its creatives, when popularity becomes a cage. Compare that to Spider-Man, Marvel's golden child. Peter Parker is the company's face, its brand, its mascot, and with that comes a leash. Every time the character evolves, editorial resets him to a marketable baseline. The irony is that Spider-Man feels more alive in other people's books, especially Daredevil's, than in his own. In Zdarsky's run, there's a short scene where Peter visits Matt, burdened by guilt over a death from his past. It's raw, honest, and more human than most mainline Spider-Man stories in 20 years. That's the difference. Daredevil invites artists to challenge the formula. Spider-Man must protect it. Even the flaws add to the legend. That isn't to say every Daredevil project is flawless. Shadowland stumbled under its own ambition, turning Matt into a demonic warlord. The 2003 film? Let's just say it was a product of its time. But even that movie's director's cut showed how much better things get when studios stop meddling. And yet, those rough patches never destroy the myth, because even when he fails, Daredevil fails with character. The industry mirror. If there's one thing the history of Daredevil reveals, it's that creative freedom isn't a luxury. It's the lifeblood of good storytelling. When you let writers and artists breathe, they create work that lasts generations. When you suffocate them under corporate oversight, you get content, not art. Frank Miller's seminal run only happened because the book was on the verge of cancellation. He was given complete freedom, and that freedom saved both Daredevil and Marvel's reputation for mature storytelling. It's poetic that a character defined by risk-taking only thrives when his creators are allowed to take risks too. Daredevil's success isn't about popularity or power level. It's about trust. Marvel trusting its creators, and creators trusting that the story matters more than the sales pitch. That's why his name has become shorthand for quality. When you see Daredevil on a comic cover, you expect excellence. He's the living proof that storytelling without fear creates art without limits. So maybe that's what the man without fear really means. Not a man immune to fear, but one whose greatest strength is daring to face it.